Okay, Namo Vishnu Badaya, Krishna Vistaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pracharini, Nivasanyavadi Pashtatara Satharane, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Okay, so continuing then on this quite detailed study, and I just got back from Harinam, so normally I like to read back over the class we did last week. Got time to do that so extensively, but we are on page 205 for those of you who have the book with you, and we'll speak about in the empowering the intelligence. Specifically, Maharaj, the last couple of pages, as we're speaking about the role of sadhana in actually doing that, and empowering our intelligence. So sadhana means regulative practice, and how vital and important it is for us, so we can actually gain, as it says here, mastering the unruly mind. That's the nature of the mind, the conditioned mind. It's unruly, and it's been dragging us in this material world for countless births. So now we have an opportunity to rein the mind in, and specifically it's done by using the intelligence. So this chapter is all about that. Words are coming in one by one. So let's see where this reading takes us today. So again, if you just joined us, we're on page 205 at the top. Sahachari, would you like to begin reading?
Thank you. Okay. With such empowerment and vision, the intelligence becomes the overseer of both the mind and senses. Thus, it can readily perceive when the mind and senses are being attracted to material enjoyment. In other words, the next step in mind control is that the intelligence needs to be alert enough to detect the wandering of the mind. Let us again turn to the guidance given by the Lord and to Srila Prabhupada's explanations as applied to the Bhakti Sadhaka. Krishna says, one should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Intelligence needs to be fortified with determination and faith. Determination in this case means knowledge of the goal, bhava, and conviction that it is attainable. In addition, intelligence must be rooted in faith in the process of sadhana bhakti, faith in the gurus who are teaching it, and faith that Krishna is guiding the aspirant. And where does such determination and faith come from? From association with advanced Vaishnavas and from study of scripture. In the verse cited above, Krishna mentions the risk of being deviated from the goal as an obvious distraction from success. This indicates that at all times the intelligence must be on guard against the unruly mind, and that may not be as easy as it sounds. The intelligence is sleep dependent and so tends to vary before the mind, which appears to have a 24-hour non-stop capacity. Still, yoga is about mind control. And if a devotee has impeccable sadhana, then his strength of character will surely win Krishna over to his side. Thus, even as he sleeps, the Lord will stand guard over him. Without such divine intervention, controlling the mind is not possible. We should point out that while the Lord is always the well-wisher of the sadhaka, he has an expectation, kamamsa tyaktva sarva asesata, Abandon without exception all material desires. Srila Prabhupada's translation of this phrase is not overdone. It is accurate. The implication is that a devotee must root out desires, longings, and attachments that lurk in his heart, as well as all conduct that feeds such desires. And while ridding himself of these burdens takes him time, a sadhaka must at least maintain an intent to do so. Otherwise, he will be guilty of the 10th offense to the holy name, which is to maintain material attachments while chanting Hare Krishna. If one has heard the glories of the transcendental holy name of the Lord, but nevertheless continues in the materialistic concept of life, thinking, I am this body, belonging to this body is mine, and does not show respect and love for the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that is an offense. The path to full mastery over the mind, which when absorbed in bhakti is known as samadhi, is not, however, a one-step process. Neither is it without its challenges. Until a strong taste for a nama sankirtana awakens within the mind, its delinquent nature persists. Thus, the mind may repeatedly digress to sense objects, especially when for some reason, in some way, it is in contact with the mode of passion. If it is the only solution is to redirect the mind to Krishna by strength of intensified sadhana.
Perhaps
This tug of war.
Just pause there.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So this challenge of bringing the mind under control, or specifically making it chaste to Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, to hearing and chanting about Krishna. It's not just a challenge for us as conditioned souls, right? It's a challenge for yogis. It's also a challenge for those who are serious about their religious and spiritual practice in other traditions. It's interesting how they, for instance, in Christianity, perhaps earlier Christianity, 200 or 300 years ago, then, or perhaps even now to some degree, but those are really, I could say, practicing it with sincerity. They often, or they speak about being tempted, but it's interesting, away from the path of God consciousness. I mean, I say this, I was watching one of my YouTube deviations here. Please excuse me. I was watching this little program about these Christian mystics, and very interesting. Their pursuit is much the same as us, in the sense they're trying to break away from worldly attachment and absorb themselves in God consciousness, but they interpret it as being tempted by the devil. Interesting how they. But for us, there isn't any concept like that. It's not as if the devil is trying to take us away from Krishna. We don't have that concept. But to take home on that, what I watched yesterday was interesting, is that the mind is, for the conditioned soul, it is a problem, especially when we're trying to obtain God consciousness. But here we've been given some really practical ways of how we can gain control over the unruly mind. So two of them things are here up on the slide. One is determination and faith. Yeah, faith in the scripture, Maharaj said. Faith in the scripture that is directing us towards the right thing to do. Faith. Faith in the instructions from the Lord. I'll go muting 1 second. Oh, okay. 1 second, let me just go muting. Who's not muted? You. Okay, again, it's like playing Space Invaders. Okay, Hare Krishna. So where was that? Yeah, so, and also determination. So this determination is not just a overnight or just for a day or 2 days or a week. This is a lifetime. Yeah, this is a as Maharaj said, as he said in the verse as well, I think also, constant practice, But we should all, but please remember that we do have help. Yeah. If we just make the effort, that's the part that we have to do. Yeah, we have faith and we make the effort to control the mind, then Krishna's going to help. Yeah. In the battle between the mind and Krishna, Krishna will actually win if we let him. if we give him enough exposure, that Krishna will overcome, will help us, will inspire us. But that will be according to our Yayatamam Papatyante. So Maharaj again is going to emphasize here the need to make that effort, which is expressed through our practice of sadhana. Yeah? Any reflections on that, on this?
Prabhu, I really liked when the sadhaka is sleeping, Lord is there guarding. I really like that.
Oh yeah, did we read that? The Krishna's. Was that something we read just now?
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah. Nicely described like that. I was commenting, because I remember the part reading. That it's interesting that the intelligence gets tired. You
Yeah.
have experience. Intelligence gets tired, but the mind doesn't.
Yes, I.
So
That's-
therefore,
But even mind also get tired, Prabhu.
eventually, I guess everything gets tired.
I experience all that, honestly.
Yeah. I'm sure we all do. I remember reflecting back when I used to work before joining Krishna consciousness.
Mm.
I used to work as a carpenter, and sometimes some of the tasks I had to do needed a lot of intelligence to work out how to actually build it, how to actually do it.
Mm.
And I always knew that if I just left it, if it was getting late and I left it, then the next morning when I were coming to work, I know I could probably work out how to do it.
Mm.
Well, because my mind, now I understand, because my intelligence,
Mm.
etc., was tired. So that's why we do it. That's why the verse, the 6th chapter is extensively quoted here in this section. There's a verse which describes that one should be regulated in his sleep. One who eats too much or eats too little, one who sleeps too much or does not sleep enough, cannot practice the yoga process. Yeah? So that's an aspect of being, making us, being ready, being having our senses. And I think another place it said as senses should be fully kind of aware, and we should be, basically we should be awake. Otherwise, difficult. Anyway, yeah. Your name's changed. Is that Padmavati and Nitai Mata? Is that your correct name? Nitai Mata, you've got Pad.
And no, Prabhu, that is my full name because actually my sister has got Padmavati. She was very unhappy that I got her name. So I actually, but when I joined my spiritual master, he doesn't like shorten the name. So I just put it. Otherwise, I go as Nitamata. She was very upset why I got her name.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize that. Anyway, we should call you Nitai Mata, if that's okay.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu,
Okay.
where are we
Yes.
reading? Prabhu?
Anything else on this?
Where are we reading?
We're reading, we just started from page 205, and we've stopped at 207 at the top.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
That's right.
Can I mention something as well?
Please, mother, please do. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. It's
Hare
like we read before that the mind is not alive. It's like a program, so it would never get tired. Even when the intelligence is tired and we're sleeping, the mind is active and we're dreaming. That's my understanding, isn't it? It never tires. That's
Yeah,
the
let's just
problem,
read
isn't
that
it?
again. Yeah. It does say that here. The intelligence is sleep dependent, and so tends to be weary before the mind, which appears to have 24-hour non-stop capacity. So as you're saying, therefore, dreaming, Yeah, the mind of the impressions, the impressions and emotions and the sights and the sounds and relationship all gets jumbled together in dreams, you know. So the mind is still somewhat active. Yeah,
So we need to become Hrishikesh, you know?
that's
You
it.
know,
Rishikesh means
isn't it like conqueror of sleep, or is that a different name?
conqueror of the, it means Krishna who is master of the senses.
All right. What's the one that Arjuna was called, the conqueror of sleep?
Godakesh.
Buddhakesh. Yes, that's correct.
Gold,
So that one. We need to
Buddhakesh.
conquer
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah, but don't forget that we need sleep as well.
I would
Unfortunately, yes.
ask you,
Yes.
so when the mind's so active, even when you're sleeping, so when you get up tired, it means that it's been like active. Otherwise, if you go into deep sleep, you wake up kind of refreshed, meaning does the mind then relax?
Yeah, was it this class? I was mentioning that in
I'm just thinking about
we was mentioning that previously. There's different states. There's the
yeah.
alert wakeful or alert wakefulness or alertness in sleep. It's more sattvic sleeping. Then there's dreaming, more passion. Then there's where you're completely out for the count.
So then at that time, is the mind peaceful, resting as well? So then you will wake up more refreshed.
Yeah, although it's still susceptible to some movement, is still there, but less. But less. It's less. You know what? In the daytime, the mind is constantly taking in information, and intelligence, constantly analyzing. It's like this. This all goes on kind of automatically without our being aware of it. But yeah, so sleep generally, it helps the whole body. You know, sleep is needed for everything, the mind, the senses, the body itself, everything. It's needed, needs to rest.
Murli Prabhu, can I ask you
Yes.
something?
Yes, please.
What happened if you're sleeping? Well, it has happened with me. I was sleeping and I got up and I said, oh my God. I was looking around. I said, I missed my service. I got up and I was thinking, you know, so does it mean actually I was in deep sleep, or is it actually you just woke me up because I was concerned about my service in the morning? I didn't get up, I didn't do it.
I'm not too sure. It just
okay, just wondered how
yeah.
You know.
Well, it's good. It's a good sign. First thing in the morning.
Yeah, in the morning I was worried, but thank God it wasn't that day, but it was just my concern.
You're thinking about service.
Yeah, my daughter got up. Mama, you're right. Everybody got up. I said, oh, I think I missed my wearing Vansi Vat. I think I missed my service. But then I realized it's not that day, so it was okay.
That's
so
good.
I just wondered.
Yeah, it's Krishna conscious, you know, we're concerned about our service. Yeah.
Yeah, then I was going
Thank you.
Before, say, the mind is still working even when the intelligence is sleep dependent, right? So that means
that's what it's saying here. Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, so then before we go to bed, we should try and make mind peaceful by doing some Krishna conscious things. So you then have does that make sense?
Generally, you might want to, because generally it's recommended, then Prabhupada will recommend you read Krishna book.
Krishna book, yeah.
We're in Krishna consciousness, we have different types of reading and study. Like this, what we're doing is quite intensive, and it takes a bit of concentrating, understand what section leads to the next section and why and what's being said. But then we have what I call easy reading, like Prabhupada Leelamrita, Krishna book, Krishna's pastimes, and that may, for some, may be a better type of reading in the evening.
Prabhu, can I just say something?
Yeah.
I have experienced if I chant And while sleeping, it's not my normal chanting. Or sleeping, if I chant and sleep, and I like it is really fresh when you wake up.
Yeah, that's another thing that devotees do.
Yeah.
Generally, it's a practice amongst devotees, I think, is when they're, they go to sleep, they're chanting a Maha Mantra. Yeah. If you haven't done that, you can try that. It's a good practice. It's a good habit to do. I try to do that. As I'm going to sleep, I'm chanting a Maha Mantra. That's good. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but yes, that's a good practice, Nitai Mata. So you might, for those who are not doing that, it's a nice thing to do. Yeah, but yeah, I just read that part here as well. I don't know, it's amazing. I was listening to the reading, but I missed that part. But when you said it about Krishna being by the side of the devotee, Krishna, the character will surely win Krishna over to his side.
Okay, one more question.
Yes.
Sometimes you whole night you can kind of semi-sleep, wake up, remembering Maha Mantra or Jai Radhe, something, singing Krishna conscious, and another time you wouldn't think about anything, dream about silly things, probably.
Yeah, that's generally that's our conditioned nature. Generally, I find that you can, how can I say, like, for instance, if you eventually, when you first might go to sleep and you try and chant the Maha Mantra, then for some, once you get into certain depth of sleepness, then your conditioned mind comes back up. Your conditioned nature, the conditioned nature of the mind. Yeah. So again, the mind's a very fickle thing. So as we're seeing, it's very fickle and it can be difficult it is unruly and it's difficult to control. But these things like, sometimes we can have a good restful night, or sometimes there'll be, especially after a few years when you've been engaged in Krishna consciousness, the impressions are going to be different. So you're going to be often having dreams or about Krishna or about your spiritual master. Now, it might not be a revelatory type of dream. It might just be, you might dream of your spiritual master. You and him are on a roller coaster at the seaside. So that's not really, I wouldn't get too excited about that type of dream. As though the spiritual master was there. The details of it is prevalent. But other times there might be instructions or teachings that the spiritual master gives you. Shivaram Swaminatha speaks about some of these dreams in Sankara, not in Sankara, in Sudha Bhakti Chintamani. Those who have dreams. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
Sorry, Prabhu. What is this slide, Prabhu? Determination and faith. What is the connection, Prabhu?
Well, this is what we need. This is what we need to bring in the mind in order for the intelligence to overcome the wayward mind. It's going to take a determined effort. And we should have faith. Faith in the scripture that is directedness towards hearing and chanting about Krishna. Faith in those who teach the scripture, faith in the spirit. We have to have faith in the process. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're going to be challenged. There is going to be challenges along the path. So we need strong faith that we can go through the challenges. If our faith is weak, then we might not choose to go through the challenges. So there will be different tests. There will be different temptations that will come to our mind. There will be different temptations that will come to our external senses. There will be temptations that come from within. Yeah. So And I was speaking, I was reading a little bit and watching a little bit about Christian mystics who are facing the same thing, tests, but they interpret it as the devil. We interpret it as just the conditioned mind. So that's what that refers to, determination of faith. These things are needed.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. All right.
It's the devil.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. That concept is pretty all pervading in Christianity, from what I can see.
Because they have only two sides, God or devil, hell or heaven. That's all they have.
Yeah. All right, let's read a bit more, shall we? I've been lost the page. I was going back and forward. I think we're on 207. Is that correct? Up the top.
Yeah, this tug of war.
Bhagavad. So someone else like to read? There's no hands there. I'll turn the volume on. You can read. You need to unmute if we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Mother Chandravali. Now we can. Yeah.
Thank you. Nam Sankirtan awakens within the mind. Its eloquent nature persists. Thus the mind may repeatedly digress to sense objects, especially when for some reason, in some way, it is in contact with the mode of passion. If it is the only solution is to redirect the mind to Krishna by strength of intensified sadhana.
Can I just one thing that
Good
so
paragraph.
the important thing is that until Mark says until a strong taste for Nam Sankirtan awakens in the mind, then it's going to be spontaneous, it's going to be natural, that you're going to always go in the direction of Krishna because of the experience that you get, in other words, the taste. Yeah. But until that stage, we have to be diligent. Yeah. Anyway, so carry on. Okay.
So we have to redirect the mind to Krishna by strength of intensified sadhana. So that means by just normal chanting, reading, hearing, yes?
Yeah, but when we're chanting and reading, it doesn't mean the work's over, because you can read and you're not concentrating. You can chant and you're not concentrating. We have to actually pay attention to the reading, put all our thoughts in it, and really try and enter into it, and our chanting as well. We have to, within the chanting, we have to pay attention. And that takes effort. You understand? It's not just, okay, I'll open a book and I'll read and I'll chant my rounds. No, you have to actually attentively be there with the chanting and be there with your reading.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This tug of war may appear too challenging for some who then surrender to the mind and neglect the intelligence. But for others, for a devotee who takes responsibility for his karma and takes responsibility for the obstacles that the path poses, the blessing of the divine eventually manifests the goal of his aspiration. At that time, a practitioner will be but slight risk of entanglement. Oh, can you little bit explain that? Sorry.
Let me just reread it. At that time, this sentence, at that time, a practitioner will be but slight risk of entanglement.
Entanglement, yes.
Yeah, so the risk is less, but there's still a risk. And then Maharaj will then speak on the example of Bharat Maharaj. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So someone may, he mentions take responsibility for his karma. So he's not vengeful or not blameful on destiny or the Lord. He sees all the struggles that comes his or her way, takes responsibility for that. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so go on. Yeah.
However, as shown by the example of Bharat Maharaj, that slight risk remains as long as the material body exists. But a devotee who understands that enjoyment is the sole right of Krishna remains safely under his shelter. That said, readers should remember that Krishna consciousness is not a tug of war, but a purifying process. To the degree that a devotee's heart becomes pure, to that degree he is freed of past karma, becomes devoid of passion, and gains mastery over the mind. Krishna glorifies this stage of complete purification thus. Oh, I know these slokas. Can I say that?
Yes, go ahead.
Brahma Buddha Pashan Atma na Shochati na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. Ooh, I remember that. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attends pure devotional service unto me. At the stage of Brahma Buddha, intellectual knowledge becomes realized knowledge. The practitioner not only knows that he is a servant of Krishna, but that he lives in Krishna's service, called Brahma Samprasa. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls the devotee who is externally in this world, but internally in his spiritual position, a Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated in this life. In conclusion, we see that the intelligence plays both an educational and a directional role in bringing the mind from the disorderly to the devotional condition. For that transition to take place, however, the intellect must be nourished with transcendental knowledge and appropriate sadhana. Although possessed of a potency superior to that of the mind, when the intelligence is neglected, it becomes weak and the mind simultaneously strong. The yogi solution of negating the mind is unreasonable, since the mind is an essential vehicle for perfection. The real solution is to nourish and empower the intelligence so that it can direct the mind to its abiding. The gross material body, home of many senses, can be an instrument of the external energy. But when the body is engaged in devotion by the intelligence, it is an instrument of the internal potency. After all, the very definition of bhakti prescribes that one engages his senses in the service of the proprietor of the senses. This is a definition of bhakti given by the great Narad. One should be free from all material designation and cleansed of all material contamination. He should be restored to his pure identity, in which he engages his senses in the service of the proprietor of the senses. This is called devotional service. And so it is with the mind, the king of the senses. It is an invaluable instrument, for it is the medium with which one meditates upon Krishna. And by so doing, one can surpass the perfection of yogis. In Srila Prabhupada's words, therefore a person working in Krishna consciousness is a perfect yogi, because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities. In order to avoid writing too extensively on this topic, we give way to the next, which is the influence of the intelligence on the working and knowledge acquiring senses.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Any reflections or comments and questions on that? Tug of war.
Prabhu, can I say something, Prabhu?
Yes, please, Mother. Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, we're doing all devotion services, but chanting is the most easiest. I'm not saying easiest, but if we really do it, it is the easiest devotional service, because if you are cooking for Krishna, it is difficult. Oh, you will think, oh, did I put that? Did I put the right masala? You will be just thinking. But you are chanting, and hearing the holy name, so that in that way you don't need to think around everywhere. You can really, so in that way the chanting is, if you really do it, that is the most easiest I felt after reading this.
Yeah, and actually, further than that, and comparing the spiritual practices required in different yugas.
Yeah.
The process that we have in this age, of course, it's suited to the inhabitants of Kali Yuga because they're not capable of doing much else. But it is relatively, as you're pointing out, it is relatively simple. And in that sense, it can be done anywhere, anytime. Like you can't cook Rajbhog on the central line.
Yeah.
Very difficult. You can try chopping vegetables sitting on the tube, but
No, even
chanting you can do anywhere, anytime. So I'm just, yeah, what you're saying is actually right. It is it's a time where we can it should be a nice time for us. We sit down and we meditate. We should approach it in a serious way. We meditate upon the holy name. And in comparison to other activities, it doesn't require, in one sense, it requires a lot of effort internally, one might say. And that's definitely there, we have to make an effort. But physically, it can be done by anybody. As everyone does, we will have bodily ailments. Sometimes we're too tired to cook or too tired to do different devotional services. But yeah, thank you for bringing that out. The chanting is there, and it's not going to get any easier than that. So if we're complaining about the chanting, sorry, it ain't going to get any easier.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much hard work.
Mm.
And it's not going to get any easier than that. Just chanting. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that out. Yeah, very good point. Anything else here? Any comments on this verse, Mother Chandravali? You know this verse, Brahma Buddha Prasanna Sochidena Kanshati.
That verse.
Yeah, it's a very well-known verse, a good verse to know, good verse to learn, because that's the stage where we actually can obtain the spiritual world. We have to bring ourselves to this stage. Yeah, transcendency is situated. Yeah.
Well, but according to that verse, okay, so you don't lament, desire, anything, right? I was thinking when, sometimes when you have performed actions, though with intelligence, I shouldn't do this or I should do it this way, yet you act in a different way.
Yeah, that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
That brings that question to Krishna. What is it that impels one
Yes.
to sinful or wrong acts, even if they know it should not be done? And what's the answer?
It's only, what did he say? It's only.
Out there?
Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha.
Yeah, karma esha krodha esha.
Only lust makes you.
Yeah, so it's lust only, Arjuna.
Lust only, Arjuna.
Devouring sinful enemy of this world. And interesting, it describes where lust is. Krishna gives a series of verses at the end of the 3rd chapter. If you want to study these verses, very interesting verses. Because Arjuna, or Krishna is explaining to Arjuna how one is situated in their dharma and then doing their prescribed duties in dharma. But you see someone who even is a righteous person, someone who is maybe a brahmana, maybe a righteous person, still they do wrong acts. What is it? This lust. Yeah, it describes the all-devouring enemy of mankind is lust. It's not Putin. It's the all-around enemy of our uncontrolled senses. So yeah, someone who's been touched or who's been touched by the spiritual platform, then they're always in this, that experience, the experiences or how can I explain, the actual taste they get from the experiences in direct relationship to Krishna gives them a joy which makes them automatically not desiring anything material anymore. They don't lament. They're in such a state of joy that they don't lament for anything that's not happened or happened in the past. Yeah, they're in the contact with Krishna is such an experience that even the things that say went wrong in the family 5 years ago, or whatever it might be, or the things you may be hankering for something, all that just disappears. That's contact with Krishna. Yeah. Everything becomes bright. Yeah. So there's no lamentation. And again, this verse describes, then you see everyone. You see everyone, or you appreciate everyone as a soul, and don't make any distinction. You treat everyone equally. Then you can mat bhaktim labate param. Then you go to the spiritual world. All right, let's read a bit more, shall we? Okay, where did we get to? I've been turning the pages again. Up to we got to the 4 stars, isn't it? Yeah. So Nitai Mata, you have your hand raised. Is that for reading?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead. 209.
Yeah. Throughout his books, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Throughout his books, Srila Prabhupada cites a verse from the Katha Upanishad, pictorially describes the relationship between the mind, intelligence, and senses. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Narada Muni twice gives a very similar but more elaborate description that includes elements like the modes of nature and sense objects. Since the mind, intelligence, and senses are our primary points of interest, we will focus on them and mention others in passing. The actual verse from Shruti is,
And this picture here, if you haven't seen it, is on the slide.
Atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratamev cha buddhihim to saratimam vidhi mana pragraham evacha indriyani hayan ahur visayam tesu gocharan atmanindriya manoyuktam bhokte te ahur manisina. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. That number 22, we don't have anywhere to read. Okay. The relevant players in the picture painted by this verse are the chariot, the body, the horses, the gross senses, the passenger, the soul, the charioteer, the intelligence, and the reins controlling the horses, the mind. From the Upanishadic verse, as well as from other references, there There emerge certainly secondary characters in the picture which are also of interest to our study. They are the 2 chariot wheels, pious and impious activities, the destination, sense objects, the impetus for a moving consciousness, and the chariot flag, the 3 modes of nature. Oh. Keeping in mind that we are exploring how intelligence connects with the senses and hence with sense objects. The example above makes it clear that the connection is not direct. The chariot driver does not directly control the horses but uses the medium of the bridle, which includes harshness and ba- oh my
Were you
God,
reading from that?
harshness and bed, and that bridle is the mind.
Yeah.
Thus, the intelligence controls the senses through the mind. This is quite interesting considering that the intelligence and the senses have the same origin. If we recall, intelligence is produced from egoism in the mode of passion, and about the origin of the senses, Lord Kapila says, egoism in the mode of passion produces two kinds of senses, the senses for acquiring knowledge and the senses of action. The senses of action depend on the virtual energy, and the senses for acquiring knowledge depends on intelligence. Can I, or you want me to stop, Prabhu?
Just read to the end of the page.
Okay. As previously described, the functions of the mind, intelligence are different but complementary in a way that enables effective direction to the senses. That direction may be for the purpose of sense gratification, purification, or loving service. However, as long as one is in this world, sensual action is dependent on guidance from the intelligence through the mind. Oh.
Okay, so it's quite technical there, or quite a few details are given there. But this picture helps to, or this helps, the picture helps to create the picture of what is actually going on. Yeah. So if you remember, going back, this is the individual, and this is the mind.
Yeah.
Which, reins are being driven. Here's the senses, and the senses are all trying to go in their own direction, which causes a bit of turbulence for the individual. The eye wants to see something, pleasant. The nose wants to smell that. The ear and tongue, of course. Difficult to paint the genital. That's here as well.
Why the colors are mentioned, Prabhu? Why these colors? Anything?
I'm not too sure. I think that's just the artists.
Okay.
Or you could say, yeah, I don't know. Different colors that's given. But unfortunately, this is what we, if you observe, generally we might do that as devotees, begin to observe people, because the mind is the index of the mind, or the face is the index of the mind. So you see some people, a lot of people on a train, or you get, when they're idle and they're sitting down, you see their face. And you can see it's very much resembling this here. See this here? Yeah. There is, sometimes it can be quite horrific of what they're going. Of course, what they're going through may be also what they're being subjected to by other persons who have uncontrolled mind and senses. Yeah. And therefore they are victimized. Of course, putting aside karma, but some persons are abused and some persons are the abuser. But the end result is the plight of the poor conditioned soul, which is graphically described in this picture here. See this picture I'm describing here? Yeah.
Sorry.
So therefore, when we begin, so this is the intelligence. So when intelligence is in working order, which it can only be in working order when it's connected to Rishikesh, who's the master. Our actually mind and senses belong to Rishikesh. They don't actually belong to us. So when we engage it in the Lord's service, we attain a natural state of abundant happiness and peace. And then instead of, you see this picture, all the senses going in different directions. We can turn this scene into a nice gentle gallop. You understand? Yeah, if all our senses of our tongue, hands, if all our senses are engaged in the master of the senses, then the individual is going to have a nice, pleasant journey on this chariot, you know. And sometimes, the senses will go here, but with the strength of sadhana, we can just gently pull back into place again and keep it going on the path. Compared to a materialistic person who's actually their life can be quite harrowing, actually, what people go through, because of their uncontrolled minds and because of being in association of other persons who have uncontrolled minds, So we have to bring like a wild horse. We have to bring the mind and senses. That's the essence of what we're hearing in today's reading of this whole section, actually. Yeah, I remember everyone has seen a wild horse before. I've seen a wild horse. One time I was traveling, hitchhiking around, and I was in Spain, and I got a little. I was staying with some gypsy type people in the bottom of some mountains in Benidorm it was, and they used to have horses, which the tourists would go on the horses, and he got a wild horse, and this was a really wild horse, and he managed to. He bought the horse, so I got the horse. It's don't know what. And the first thing he did was put it in a stable with a door, metal door, and this horse was kicking this door. Never been in confined before, and it was kicking this door all day, bang, bang. So it's like the mind is like, and it was there for some time, I forget how long, and then after some time he let the horse out, and the next stage the horse was running around in circles, going crazy. It's running around. He let it just go, let it go, let it run round. Then after some time he put a saddle on the horse with great effort. Then he was running round. Then gradually, he managed to get on the horse. And it was wild at first, but gradually, the horse became under control. So that's what kind of like when we first, or for a materialistic person. But when we come to Krishna consciousness, we gradually learn to engage our senses in Krishna's service. Yeah. And it may be a rough ride in the beginning. It may be. But actually, there's a great deal of joy and taste in Krishna consciousness, which does make everything relatively quite easy. Yeah, relatively quite easy. Like I was just observing, I was in Harinam today, and observing the younger brahmacharis distributing books, and they're in so much bliss. They're getting so much happiness from this service that for them it's just joyful. Everything is joyful. So as we explain about the senses and the sadhana and bringing them under control, we don't want to make it sound like it's oppressive. It's not. If we actually follow Krishna consciousness and we're enthusiastic, we will joyfully control the senses. We will happily not engage in sense gratification. Yeah, we will naturally have a easily obtainable higher taste. Param Krishna Navadate. Of course, it may not always be like that. There will be when one is unsteady, one is enthusiastic for a week and miserable for a month. If one is more steady, then they're generally, can after time, one will become steady. Anyway, any questions? I'll just give a little summarization there of this picture, what's being explained in my own words, somewhat.
Prabhu, I was looking at this black horse. Why they put the ear? Because ear is the one we get disturbed very quickly, isn't it? Is that the reason?
So they better Better ask the artist.
Yeah. Because ear is the one, if there is a noise that we get the more disturbed, is not for the smell.
Well, I think probably a lot of people might have trouble with this one here,
The eyes.
the tongue.
The tongue is the most voracious.
Tongue is not
There's a
always.
scripture. The tongue is of all the senses.
Yeah.
Tongue is the most ferocious and voracious and uncontrollable. But Krishna has given us such nice prasadam.
Yeah, but even we have prasadam with the disturbance. The ear is the one it's an
Anyway, it sounds like the ear is the one for you.
But, Hey, Mata, you wouldn't upset Vaishnavas with the ears. You do it with your tongue. You commit more offenses with the tongue.
Yeah, the tongue is prone to speak Pajapa, make offenses.
Oh, that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the ear, at least okay, I might hear, but then you use your intelligence and okay, I heard that, but that's not right, good for me.
Yeah.
Finish
It's
it.
like now I'm remembering this verse by Ambarish Maharaj, Savai Paravinda, Savai Krishna Paravindayo, you know? We all know that verse. He engages all of his senses. Specifically, he was conscious of each one of his senses and he consciously engaged them all in Krishna's service.
Mm.
He became a part of devotee. Everything, his sense of touch, in touching the Lord's devotees, his tongue, in tasting the remnants of the food offered to the Lord, his nose in smelling the tulsi offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the beautiful forms of the Lord, Shankara, yeah, his ears in hearing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, etc. And his mind in always thinking of how to serve the Lord. Yeah. So again, if you just try and picture these horses all subdued and just clip-clopping down the country path with this person here very content, that's a Krishna conscious person in this material world. Yeah. They're flying it nicely. And the senses may go here. The horses may look to the left or may look to the right, but you just gently gently bring them under strain again. Keep on going. But in the beginning, as I gave the example of the wild horse, I had that experience of seeing it actually. It may take a bit of doing, but again, I'm making this point of the taste of Harinam Sankirtan. There's a lot of bliss obtainable from that, which makes it all, to one degree or another, relatively easy. Although there's still, as we all see, we still have to make the effort. But still, we've got lots of help. All right?
Krishna helps.
Yes, Krishna helps those who
Help themselves.
helps himself, quote from the Bible. God, it's quite a deep statement that God helps those who help themselves. So we have to help. The beginning point is us. We have to have that seed of desire and effort to bring our mind and senses under control. Then Krishna will help.
Don't we have the same thing? You take one step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps
Yeah.
towards you.
Yeah, when he sees the little jiva struggling his best, he takes pity on the jiva. If they're trying to be attentive in his service, he takes great pity, and he helps. Yeah, that's it. We have to make the effort. Yeah, Krishna helps those who help themselves. All right.
What if
Go on.
you want to do a lot of things, you want to read a lot here, but time is a problem, and Krishna takes that into account. Services, and you want to do a lot, but there's only 24 hours, and I mean.
So then, I'm thinking of how Prabhupada would answer that question. Then, don't sleep.
Don't eat.
Yeah, to quote the 6 Goswamis.
Yes.
Sleep less, and that's what we hear about the 6 Goswamis, and they got such a taste that they like you in one sense, but then they like Prabhupada. He wasn't only Prabhupada in one sense. Prabhupada was doing it for humanity, just like sleeping 1 hour and translating his books, but he was doing it also because he was getting a taste from it. It was enlivening to him. He felt empowerment, and he was enlivened to do it. It wasn't he was just, oh, he didn't want to do it. He was actually, I think he mentions that in some degree as well, that he was enlivened, it was given him, and therefore he was sleeping less. So sleep less.
Okay, thank you.
Eat less. I'm kind of preaching to myself.
Yeah.
If you want to read more, you want to chant more, then if you eat less, then you'll sleep less. But again, we should be careful. Sometimes devotees try and run too fast. They have troubles. So bit by bit we may. And Prabhupada also, Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked him about how he sleeps so less. And Prabhupada gave an interesting answer. He said by a practice. So Prabhupada, he left, in his 70s, So Prabhupada practiced going on less sleep. So we have to be careful how we do that. I mean, after over 30 years, I still haven't managed to sleep less than 6 hours a day. I still need as good 6 hours, perhaps sometimes 6.5 hours. Sometimes I can sleep 5 or less, but anything less than that, then I don't function very well.
But before, Prabhu, if you sleep before 12 o'clock, every hour is counted as 2 hours.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, that's known as it's more valuable sleep. It's more valuable time. So yeah, that's a good question to have, Navachanda. What it means means you're eager. You would like to do more.
Can I show you the book I was going to tell you? Can you see it?
That's yeah, I can see it, but I don't know. Yeah.
But you're not going to answer.
No, read it if you like. What's it called?
Krishna Nika Kamudi.
Why?
It's a Srila Kavi Kanapur, but it's Banu Maharaj who wrote it, edited it.
All right, as you like. It's a nice book to read. All right, so we're stopped there for today. It's just gone over 7 o'clock, 3 minutes past 7.
Thank you.
And tomorrow, so thank you everyone. I hope this was of some interest. And
where did we stop? I want to mark it.
Big technical, yeah, me as well. Where did we stop?
End of 210.
End of 210, yes. So we're starting
2:11. Okay.
2:11 next week. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. I really appreciate everyone for being here and
Thank you,
hearing,
Prabhu.
taking part.
Oh, one second.
Yes. Oh yeah, I have to make someone else a host. That's it.
No, that's okay. You don't need to do that. It's
No?
no. Just say Suniti Priya. She had a not very nice. She had an accident. Not so well. Please pray for her.
Okay.
Who is this? Who's not well?
Suniti Priya. Pray for her. She gets well quick.
Yes, definitely.
So I don't have to make anyone the
No.
host.
This is your link. That's fine. No problem.
Okay, so I just end the meeting.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna